Hello, guys. I'm Guillermo, and I'm here with Slava and Brandon, and somewhere in there, there's Frodo. Who there you go, Frodo. And
Well,
I wanted to. It's a great privilege to talk to you guys, and evidently this is for people that have seen the documentary and know it, or people that haven't seen it. It's an extraordinary piece of filmmaking. And it's enough that it's a powerful document, but it is also just visually visceral and powerful. And you guys are in opposite sides of the world co-directing. How did you guys first connected?
it's an important question. So it turns out that one of our producers actually grew up under Russian oppression in communist Poland. And about 8 years ago, she discovered Anya and Slava's works, and she was so moved by them because they reminded her of home. And she shared them with me, and I was blown away. I couldn't believe that something so tiny had these huge worlds, these huge stories on it. And so the four of us, we were two couples actually. Aniela and I are married, and of course Slava and Anya, as you see in the film. We began a collaboration to do a project in animation. And then Russia invaded Ukraine, and I called up Slava to see if he was okay, when they were leaving, and he said, "No, we're going to stay. We're going to keep making our art during the night." And I said, "Why? What are you doing during the day?" And he told me for the very first time, I'm in the Ukrainian Special Forces and I'm teaching peaceful people, everyday people to fight back. And we felt this was a miracle. There were two forms of resistance happening. These everyday people that were trying to defend their home, their culture, their loved ones, and that they were being creative, that they were making new art in this time. And so we wanted to send cameras to them and figure out a way to make a film, to tell the story.
Now, you talk about the moment, Slava, where you and Anya decide to stay. Uh, when exactly did that happen?
Really, we lived many years in Crimea, in our garden, and we worked in our studio. And after annexion of Crimea at 2014, we we came to Kharkiv. We lose all our lifestyle, that time lifestyle, and it was completely clear the big war will come to us because annexion of Crimea was never punished, and aggressor was really inspired because this. And it was clear for us, but also my former, at the time, future commander, he's a professor of history in our state university. And his major, his subject is modern Russian war, like war in Chechnya. And for him, it was completely clear what kind of war coming. And he established our military preparation. He prepared us, and that is why we survived in this situation. My friends from Saigon unit and we. It was clear for us we cannot permanently run away because one day we already will not able to find calm space if we will not fight back.
Yes. But one of the remarkable aspects of the film, and one thing that I relate to very much, because I remember when my father was kidnapped, one of the first things the negotiator said, "What do you do?" And I said, "I'm a writer director." And I said, "Then every morning you're gonna write, and every morning you're gonna not be uh, trapped." And it is so often, and especially now, that we are painted as artists as delicate creatures, and art is incredibly strong and a resistance. And you can see the transformation of the porcelain from something that was ornamental to something that is testimonial. And I find that incredibly moving. Slava, you and I have in common that I have been for many years a mold maker. I used to do my molds for my makeup effects, and I was looking at that and your precision in doing this. And it's a precision that translated in your fight and your resistance and all this. But I find it extremely moving. Did you guys continue? Because the documentary is shot over what, 3 or 4 years?
It's almost 2 years. He has about 20 months, 22 months.
And in the course of that, you decided to record not just the war, but the moments where you're foraging for mushrooms, or you're painting a porcelain, when you're observing nature. And that is very powerful. You want to talk about how you, both on both sides, what part did you were in charge over there, and Brandon, what you were in charge over here?
The beginnings of this, Guillermo, were very, very unique and very, very difficult. So at the start, we were separated by 6,000 miles by different languages. Slava's English is fantastic now, but we didn't speak a word of the same language at the time. We were in these different time zones, different countries, everything was against us. But we figured out there must be ways to come past this. So we realized we could communicate over Zoom, just like this, but with an interpreter. And when we were trying to get the cameras into Ukraine, there wasn't, you can't just ship something and it could reliably show up there. So we had to discover another way. And we found that there was a network of volunteers, and it was a makeup artist from New Jersey who was stockpiling medical supplies. She would fill her apartment with 50, 60 bags, bring it to the airport, bring it to Poland, drive it into Ukraine. And she said, I'll bring the camera to Slava. And when this camera arrived, we had a deep challenge because Slava and Andrei, his best friend, who became our cinematographer, they had never used a video camera before, a cinema camera before.
But Andrei was a painter.
Andrei was an oil painter. I had asked Slava, do you know someone who could maybe just press record on the tripod? And he said, I'm going to send something to you. And he sent to me this folder of oil paintings. And for me, often in landscape painting, I'm unmoved. But Andrei's works, I was feeling it. It was transporting me there in masterworks.
And an amazing sense of light.
A deep sense of light, a deep sense of emotion. He knew where to put his canvas. And I said, this is already a cinematographer. He needs only to become a camera operator. So I designed this impromptu film school over Zoom. We would work with an interpreter, and we would figure out a way that they could translate their instincts as artists, because they are master visual storytellers for many decades, into cinema. And it wasn't just, okay, we can focus, we can do this or exposure, that. It was about the language of film. And while we were there, we had this huge frustration, right? Because we speak to the interpreter, they're translating, and we're waiting. And so Slava and I would begin to get bored, and we would start to sketch. And these sketches would become little storyboards, and they would become diagrams and ideas. We looked at sculptures and paintings and movies that we adored. And we realized we were fluent in the same language, in visual art. And we could communicate with this perfectly fluently from the very first day. And what they began to do, what they taught themselves to do from the very beginning, Andrei's work was so strong that even when he was shooting on the very first day, the first roll of the first, clips are
which is what?
The opening sequence of the film. Many of those shots Andrei filmed the first day he picked up the camera.
Looking at the insects and the
grass. Yes, and when they're walking and blowing these dandelions and this light coming in this way, I was blown away. And I thought another thing, I realized they have no concept of B-roll. Everything that they film, when there's shelling, when their whole city is being bombed, they're choosing to film beauty. It has meaning for them. It's no cutaway. This is the part of their soul, part of their home. And so I realized we must follow in the edit anything that they film, whether it's in war, in their creative process, or around in nature.
But now, Slava, I mean, this is truly you coexist as a weapons master, a mold maker, and at the same time a filmmaker. And it's impossible to imagine how you can put in compartments all that. So the camera traveled with you guys all the time? Did you have the equipment with you all the time? Did you have the spirit and the mind to say, we should capture this shot while dealing with shelling? Please take me through that, any of those days.
Thank you. Of course, I never thought about movie, about film, something especially at this time. I was extremely busy. Okay, I make my preparation few years. I have some kind of expertise how to teach people use firearm, but it was realistic time. Thousands of Ukrainians came to army as volunteers, and they never used firearms before. I was extremely busy because it was pretty dangerous situation, not only because shelling, but because the best of people, sometimes not so young, sometimes not so health, sometimes pregnant girls or seniors keep this AK rifle and completely not understand what to do with this. It was pretty dangerous situation. I was busy. I was focused on security of my family, on all actions of all missions of my unit, and so on. But we understood in first second we have amazing opportunity to share our experience as artists and as soldiers, and my unit completely supported us from the very beginning. Brandon's tutorials was amazing. Brandon really inspired us, and it was easy to start, but also we felt this special responsibility, because when I picked up my camera, someone picked up a rifle in my place.
Exactly.
Because they trusted us. They believe it's so important to share this experience. And we were so lucky to have Andrei. Of course, as first-time director, I interrupted Andrei first days anytime. I have very straight idea what I want to see, and I told Andrei, please, this motion, this angle, this direction, what you doing, Andrei? I asked you about something else. But Andrei, he's perfectionist, and he answered me, Slava, I already filmed all what you want. Now I'm trying something else. And when I watched this footage, I pretty soon I understood Andrei's solution is much more interesting than any my ideas. Andrei's footage is better, and I just forgot about camera. I was really focused on my everyday activity because my work on shooting range was important. And also we made our figurines in time of blackouts, and nobody knew that time. Maybe next blackout will be in 30 minutes, and we never finished this work because this we were really focused on our life and never built for our movie something artificial except Anya's figurines.
But what I find, there are several things I would like to discuss. One is you are used to collaborate, because Annie and you have a collaboration that you say, every time I press a figure and then she paints it, I'm amazed. So in a way, Andre is painting for you, with you, in a similar manner.
I love collaboration from my childhood, from my art college. I tried to work in collaboration. Of course, this movie, it's unbelievable experience for me. It's next level of collaboration, but many years we worked.
I would say the military unit is pretty
Yes,
impressive.
it's also special, very special experience of collaboration. But we worked with Anya in collaboration from the very beginning. We established this line of our figurines just because one day we decide we can make something in porcelain. We never study ceramic art. Before we study many years. I spent in our art college and art academy more than 13 years. But we study graphic design and art of books, different kind of visual art, but never about sculpture and never about ceramic. But just one day we decide maybe as visual artists from outside we can make something new and something interesting in porcelain art and start to make these figurines. It's really important for me. I'm so happy just make these figurines. It's fast because I'm lazy, and after this, Anya working a long time and make this amazing complicated painting on surface, telling your stories.
But there are two questions, one for each of you. One is evidently the will to use art not as a domesticated thing, not as an ornamental thing, but something that keeps a part of the spirit of humanity alive is double in the movie. One is the one you record with the porcelain, and the second, even more imperious act, is making a movie in the middle of war day by day. And that's a decision, as you say, that you had to take along with your team to say, yes, we will do this, because the importance of it is to record, but also not to surrender the spirit. How easy was it to convince everyone that you were going to be logging around?
Oh,
And then I have one for you, Brendan.
thank you. It's really complicated questions for me because I really cannot. I can forgot something about this time, but anyway, Anya's stories on porcelain,
Yeah.
Anya's artistic language as painter is the source of many artistic solution in our movie. Anya's language is very metaphoric, and all these dandelions and snail.
How is the
And
sculpting? The sculpting is phenomenal.
oh, thank you so much. Thank you so much. I cannot explain how I appreciate it, and I am trying to make my best. But anyway, sometimes our figurines looks good only because Anya fix my mistakes. Sometimes when I make something really ugly, I came to Anya and asked her, Anya, please make something. Try fix this. I don't like this, and after time, Anya's stories came to surface and changes. She's changing everything. And that is why I'm so deep in Anya's artistic language, and it was clear for us what we can film, because and what kind of connection may be between these figurines and between our decision about movie, because from the very beginning we decide. Anya told here this: we will be never focused on destruction. We will be never focused on violence, because all war looks same, all destructions look same, and it's senseless to film kind of news footage. This news footage will be interesting for nobody after time, because news gets old quickly, but beauty never. And also much more important to show what may be destroyed, because this war, not destruction, but what may be destroyed. And it was easy for us because we felt behind us amazing Brendan's creativity and skill, and Paula, and we felt amazing support of our team. And we thought we are people on the ground, we are eyes of our project, and our responsibility is just look around really attentively, and find something important and beautiful. It was natural for us as visual artists. And also, we were really motivated because all is so fragile during the war, and we filmed every part of nature or every person like if it was last day of their
Yeah.
existence.
And you can feel that. And one of the things, Brandon, that I mean, we see the product complete, the story is left hanging as does history, but there is the you know, when you see something that is an act of art in itself, you judge it like that because you're watching it. But to come to it, I mean, you were an instigator of the artistic marriage of this. Originally, trying to do an animation, which you do in the film. You have animation in the film. Beautiful, by the way. And I want you to tell us a little bit of that. But the second is, when did it started to become clear to you that the juxtaposition of the frailty and the violence was gonna guide you towards the structure of the film? Tell me a little bit about these two things.
This is what happened. At the beginning of the war, there was a terrible void that was created. Russia was attacking and destroying universities. They were destroying museums. Many artists were killed, and nothing could bring these people back. Anya and Slava felt a deep motivation, I think, really in the face of history, to create something new, not only as an autobiographical record in Anya's paintings and their work, which is so personal and so important, but also as this act of defiance to continue creating culture. And when you had these two things, the war and this destruction, and then this creative act, it created a natural juxtaposition, which the human brain almost can't understand it. So
Yeah.
it draws you in. And what they did is they followed their lives with the camera. They were following their lives within the porcelain, but we added this layer, this gathering of their very, very personal experience. Originally, I wanted to bring a crew, a team, but they had begun to shoot with one camera beforehand, and the footage was so intimate. It was so personal. It could be the best method of creating a verite film to not do this, to
Yes.
work in deep collaboration, but to let them follow the course of themselves, their own lives themselves, through their own eyes. And one day they would be shooting nature, the next their artistic process, the next the destruction. And so the juxtaposition was not a choice to try to create some cinematic structure. It was a way to honor their defiance as
Cool.
artists. Like you talked about, it's not ornamental, it's not entertainment, it is empowering, it's so bold. And so the structure of the film followed this rhythmically. Aniela and I also worked in collaboration as a couple, and also as people who've made films for many years. Our style is that we have an unspoken language, and so we were looking at the footage and we were feeling it, and we said, if this couple, and Anya and Slava, this is what they're choosing to be creative, we have to honor it. So we worked every day to just help cut and follow their lives in the Avid.
Yeah, but you were organizing the material over here while they were
That's right.
the raw footage. There is evidently, I mean, the most clear example of the compositional nature of your work in the editing room is the opening, of course. It's not a great insight. It's so powerful to go from nature and life to the destructed city, and the change of color palette from the gold to the gray is extremely powerful, painterly, blah blah. But it is it ultimately is more powerful because the subject of the film is to not let go of the human spirit. And I
Yeah.
think that there is a war, not only in a war zone, but for our very contemplation of art in every country right now. They want us to believe that image is something that can be done with an app, or is something that is not that difficult, or that is something that can come from a machine, or it can come from a political philosophy, or this and that. And it is the most intimate thing. And the movie manages to show that you know, the war is not just a war for territory or identity, but it's a war of ideas and the sanctity of in the existing in peace. These things. When you were structuring the film, did you obviously you cannot know how it was going to end. The ending is beautiful; it's full circle. Talk to me about how this material revealed itself. Did you come from a documentary?
Never,
Is
never.
this your first documentary?
No, my background is all narrative, animation, visual effects, these things. Never before have I made even a short documentary. So for us, we had a deep challenge because this war continues. There is no natural ending, but the porcelain gave us a sense of not an ending, a continuation, but a conclusion from a narrative structural standpoint. I was talking with Slava while we were working, and Slava said, "This is new for us, cinema. We've never used time before." And I said, "I disagree with you, Slava. You have seasons, you have movement, you go into the past in your work." And they started to create these figurines. They were looking into their peaceful days in Crimea before the war. They were looking at the first days of the war, and they were dreaming about a peaceful future in Ukraine. And we realized this is a time machine. I cannot bring the camera to these places, no matter what, but their art can transcend us there. We can bring the audience. And so with this Pegasus they created for the final scene of the film, it's a dream of the future. And just to acknowledge that that dream can only exist if they work towards it, and it is totally uncertain, there's no bow that's tied up, it creates a possibility for the audience to live in their shoes, that all they have is this dream, and yet they can do something about it. And so in that way, the porcelain is a cinema. We just melted this with the animation. It was a frozen cinema on the surface. So
Yeah,
that was the solution. It was within their art. That was the solution to edit.
but the movement, the compositional elements of the porcelain itself, your sculptures are so flowy. They're so they're never static. And
Never.
as a sculptor myself, I know this. You can see when a shape is simply representational or when it has a flow and a movement, and the marriage with the colors and the testimonial. I mean, they are so absolutely astounding little pieces of art that transcended their original purpose. And I find this is one of those serendipity moments where you see art coming from not the collision, but the union of people across an ocean. And I'm very curious about this. Your communication was daily or when the opportunity arose?
Is as absolutely as much as possible. We tried to make it daily, but some days there was no power. There was shelling. So Slava would continue to film in these times, and then we would come back on Zoom and we would look at dailies together, and we would mark up on the screen different ideas we had for shots. And Slava and Andrei, they would go back. They would say, "Okay, we were filming during the sunset, but the reflection was not right. We need to go back here." And they would return and return. And it was this experimental process we felt. I was almost like I've met this. It's like meeting a brother that you've never known. Slava and I have
When
a
did you
life.
meet the first time physically?
We made the film without speaking directly to one another. We never met until they stepped off the plane in Park City, Utah, the night before the premiere at Sundance. And we hugged, we were crying. I mean, it was a magical day. It was a magical day. And they were able to see not only their story, but their art on the big screen. And there was
Slava, has this been shown in Ukraine?
Yes, a few times. It's we still have not distribution in Ukraine, but film was in Ukraine on a few festivals, even right now. Yesterday was screening in Ukraine, and Andrei and Katya from our movie, from our unit, visited. And also, I really appreciate your words about sculpture, and I think Anya will be happy with your words because for her now, when I ask her paint something just on paper or canvas, it's boring for her. She loves paint this surface, and she's using this especially for change. She have experience as book artist, and book also is changing. Yes, have timeline inside, but Anya also used this surface to make some change from different direction. One of my favorite Anya's figurine, face of people on these figurines are changing during rotation.
Mhm.
It's young from one direction and old from other direction, and you can rotate this figurine and feel this change, how time coming. But anyway, Anya painted something in harmony and balanced, and she never paint on figurines something like refugees in shelter, or something about violence and destruction. Her
Yeah.
language is very metaphoric, and animation gave us opportunity to ruin this balance. That is why we are so happy
To
about
break through it.
Yes.
The animation was done over here. Did you do it? Tell me a little bit about it, Brandon.
It was done in Warsaw, Poland. There's a group of animators there called Blue Studios, and they have a shared history of this Russian oppression. So they felt so much kinship with Ukraine. They worked for almost a year on these animations, and they studied 20 years of Anya's art. Slava sent thousands of photographs to them so they could learn to work in her style. Even the antenna of a butterfly or something would be
That
this.
was remarkable.
It was a master idea of Slava that everybody could really be honoring their work. And they decided to draw by hand 7,000 frames. It was a 2D process. And we developed a technique to take this 2D animation and to bring it under the surface of the figurines so that the glaze itself was moving and even reflecting the sky of Ukraine. So that it's not like a CG thing. It was all honoring exactly what they see there. And we wouldn't go into some other 2D animated world, oh, we cut away full frame to this. No,
No.
within Ukraine, because they cannot leave. And the figurines were there in the rubble or in the forest.
It is incredible because the glazing of the figurine, the sort of textural dotting, and it was done then physically for the 7,000 of those frames.
We came up with a method where they were drawing, for example, a line, and then they would make a dot. And we came up with a method so that dot, we would go onto the surface of the figurine. We did 3D scans of those figurines, and that
You
dot would create
projected
a
it
small
on.
bump. Yes, but that bump wouldn't activate something artificial. Slava
Exactly.
and Andrei, they took out even landmines from the forest to film the places that they loved with light that they loved. They removed the mines. Slava took them out, and they filmed reflection maps of the sky. They created a way to 3D scan the logs so that the light of the actual moss from Ukraine would be lighting up the figurine, the drawings from Poland. So everything was unified. There was no artificial creation.
And I think for Slava and for you, I mean, one of the things that is remarkable is that you don't feel any artifice. Nothing feels like that in the documentary.
That is really meaningful to us. And I think it was the intention of everyone because it is a film about the beauty of people and it needed to be as handmade as we could possibly make it.
I think that the final thought for me is that uh, recording everything that you said, Slava, that is expected of a war, the violence, the destruction. When you guys discuss the weapons as objects, I noticed that you said the word was krasna when you were describing the weapon, like it was beautiful in its function. Because I think krasna means that, and I think that understanding that the weapon is a terrible thing, but it can be used, like art can be used for something that preserves.
It's really we felt so many really weird connection, and kind of everyday philosophy in moment, because we tried to defend our culture, but our culture also is a way of our resistance, and our culture and art is also one of the source of our resilience. And this weird connection between art and weapon, when I told Katya, one amazing girl from our unit, Katya, now you are in fight instead of me. Is it good? I am not feeling like this. And she told me, now you have something much better than rifle. You have much more, your camera is much more powerful and much more impactful weapon. I never thought about camera as a weapon. I thought about, okay, now I have new brush to paint with. Yes, I have new material to sculpture something. But it's really important because our weapon is truth. Camera is something very special for us, even like painters or porcelain artists.
It is, and I think when you identify a work of art and it transcends its original function, and I think that this movie is everything you wanted it to be, guys. Everything you wanted and hoped it could be in recording and transforming and making people share that opportunity. But we are also entering in the entire world a very, very dark time everywhere we look, in which art is going to be demeaned and is going to be robbed of its power, and it's going to be something that is not practical or is a dream or is this useless thing that can be this or that, and it isn't. And your movie is incredibly present, powerful in telling everybody that the resistance anywhere you are, anywhere you go, is art and spirit, because they're the same thing. And I want to thank you. And I think you're extremely powerful storytellers, narrators, and recorders of history and part of the history. And I want to thank you for this. And if I can one day meet you in person, it will be my greatest honor.
Thank you
We'll
so
be ours,
much.
Guillermo.
Thank you.
That was so
Thank you, my
beautiful.
friend.